Welcome to Open BXRx on BronxNet. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, inviting you to get social with us at BronxNet TV on Instagram and Twitter, and BronxNet Community Television on Facebook. On March 23rd, Bronx residents will vote to fill two new city council vacancies. The special elections will fill the former 15th City Council district seat previously held by new Congressman Richie Torres and the 11th district seat held by Andrew Cohen, who accepted a judgeship he was nominated for last year. And for the first time, New York City will use ranked choice voting in primary and special elections for local offices. What does this mean? How does it work? How will your ballot look different? Here to tell us more is Bella Wang, Voting Reform Chair at the League of Women Voters NYC. Welcome, Bella. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Bella, first, please help us define what a special election is, why it's important to participate in these elections, and which ones exactly are taking place here in the Bronx. I know that we mentioned a little bit in the
Yeah.
intro.
So a special election happens when there is a vacancy. This varies across the country exactly how these are filled, but in New York, they're filled by actually holding an election in order to finish out the term. With some exceptions, I'm sure we'll talk about with in terms of new changes of order for how we vote this year. Generally speaking, it's pretty much the same as any other election. You show up and you select the candidates that you prefer. Um, in this case, there, like you said, there's city council seats. So there was a vacancy opened up because the individuals that were holding those seats have moved on to other positions. So we have a lot of candidates up who are interested in taking over.
Thank you, Bella. And starting this year, of course, New York City will start using ranked choice voting in primary and special elections for local offices. What exactly is ranked choice voting, and how does it work? You know, a lot of people are going into these booths, and they're going to be surprised by the way their ballot looks this year. No.
Yeah, I think, it's actually helpful to look up a ballot beforehand, which I think you can do actually if you go to vote.nyc, which is the kind of portal that the New York City Board of Elections has for everything. Basically, you're going to rank up to 5 candidates, which is important because in I think one of these two races, quite a few bit more than 5 candidates. So you don't have to rank all 5. It's basically a tabulation system that says if your first choice is not one of the most popular choices, then your second choice kind of becomes your vote, basically. So the tabulation system basically just ensures that kind of your favorite person, you rank them 1 through 5 or 1 through 4, as many people as you want. You have to rank. You don't have to rank all 5 if you don't want to. The kind of most popular person that you rate on your list closest to the top will be your vote, basically.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So it's of course a ranked choice voting, process,
Yeah, so
and
they've
we've
got
seen that.
rounds. So basically, it's like they basically do elimination. So
Right.
first they eliminate the least popular candidate, and then those people have their votes transferred to their second choice, and you
And
go until you get a majority.
Bella, I did read online that folks can still vote for just one candidate if they prefer. Is that true? And do they have to use the ranked choice voting process?
No, I mean honestly, if you only like one candidate, only rank one candidate.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. Could you remind us of the different ways in which Bronxites can vote this year?
Yeah, so there was a big turnout last election, so I'm sure a lot of you are kind of familiar with the changes that have happened. You basically have 3 ways to vote. So the usual, of course, is you can always go to your poll site on the day of, but early voting is a thing. It has been for a little while now. So starting 9 days or it's
Mhm.
10 days before the election, you can go early and vote at your poll site, or not at your assigned early voting poll site, I should say. And lastly, you can of course vote absentee. So we're keeping that on from last year.
Right. I'm actually glad that you mentioned the early voting poll site. A lot of people were a little confused about that too last election season. It's not always the same as your actual voting poll site on the day of elections. So it is worth, looking up where that ballot location is, in case, you're not sure. And I guess they can also do that on nycvotes.com,
Yeah,
Bella.
it's vote.nyc. There's like a bunch of links to things. So they have an example of what a ranked choice ballot looks like. They have instructions about how to vote absentee if you want, registration deadlines, where's your polling place, all that stuff is on there.
Perfect. So vote.nyc folks, just look up all that information on that website. Bella, we also have several elections coming up on June 22nd. What are some of the seats up for grabs, and what should we do to prepare and learn more about the slew of candidates that are joining these races?
Yeah, so this is a pretty big election for the city. The citywide offices are up. Many of the borough-wide offices are up, and I think just like 60 to 70% of the city council seats are actually open this year. So because they're term limits, and so a lot of the existing city council members are term limited out. So actually, you probably have votes up and down your local government officials that you might have. It's a big deal. So obviously, we have I have no idea how many people are running for mayor, but it is dozens at this point. There's public advocate, there's comptroller, there's borough president, there's, you know, you can keep going with all of these offices, and in a lot of places, city council. So there's a lot to prepare for, because in particularly, I mean, at the mayoral level and at the city council level, you're gonna end up with a lot of candidates to research, which is why it's good that we have ranked choice voting, because you may find that you like, you know, 3, 4, 5 people out of your options. So in terms of how to research all of this, there's like a few different things you can do. So I think honestly, following your local news, which is such as
BronxNet.
is always like a top thing to do, because they're going to know a lot more about your local candidates, especially for city council, than anywhere else. We have vote411.org at League of Women Voters, which may have some information. There's going to be information all over, but definitely pay attention to local news, I would say.
Absolutely. You know, shameless plug for us. BronxNet just held a mayoral candidate forum on Bronx Talk with Gary Axelbank. So you can tune into that as well. It just passed, but just follow us on social media at BronxNet TV to see the future air times and air dates for those races. Of course, other races are going to be featured here on BronxNet as well.
Yeah, I would be remiss in noting we're actually, I believe we're going to be hosting a mayoral forum later on. So watch out for that.
Yes, another shameless plug. And that IG to find out more information is LWB NYC, right, Bella?
That's right.
All right, got it. And another thing I wanted to ask is, this year, New York State is holding a closed primary. What exactly does this mean, and how will it affect voters?
Yeah, so the New York system means that you have to be registered with your party before you participate in that party's primary for the most part. So if you want to participate in the Republican primary, you have to be a registered Republican. If you're a registered Democrat, then you can participate in the Democratic primary. This is notable because a lot of people are not necessarily registered with a party. The June primaries are a big deal, because that's, you know, by the time you get to November, you may only have 2, 3 candidates left in the race. This is where you get to see all of the people that might be involved. What I should mention, ranked choice voting is for the primary only. So that's also something that we should definitely mention here. So basically, you should make sure you register with a party if you plan to vote in the part where most of the candidates will be. Which reminds me, the deadline is Valentine's Day, which is coming up very soon. So you should definitely, if you are not registered with a party and you do want to vote in one of the party's primaries in June, you need to get on that soon. So vote.nyc.
Got it. Thank you. And when is the voter registration deadline for the upcoming elections? How can people register to vote or check their registration status today?
Yeah, so I'm gonna send you the same place, vote.nyc. They have a bunch of different links. So there's one for like, where's my poll site? There's one for like, am I registered? There's one for how do I request an absentee ballot? So there's a bunch of different links on the website. But in terms of registering to vote, I'm just gonna pull that up because I don't know what those dates are.
No worries.
So for the special election in the Bronx in March, the deadline to register to vote by mail or online via the DMV website is February 26th. The deadline to register to vote in person via the Board of Elections is March 13th. Early voting starts on the same day as that, March 13th. And you have a little bit of time after that, I should say, to request an absentee ballot. You have until the 16th of March, looks like. And then for the June primaries, if you are not already registered, May 28th. Once you've done that, absentee you until June 15th and the election.
From the League of Women Voters New York City observations, how has voter turnout changed due to the coronavirus? Has it gotten better or worse?
Yeah, so I think that honestly it's a little bit hard to say, because the last election, which is, you know, when people were voting, last year saw a lot of very active civic activity from all around the country, including New York. So I don't know how much of that is coronavirus versus anything else that might have been happening, but I will say people really got the message, I think, about voting absentee as a way to, not have to be in person and worry about coronavirus. So I think I'm hopeful that this year that level of civic activity will continue as we go into these local elections, which are much lower turnout, and they're an off year. People don't necessarily think about it. You have a much smaller pool of voters.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that a lot of the people who came out to vote this last year will stay and continue to vote again. And that they'll continue to, use absentee, which we now have much better infrastructure for in terms of being able to request and then mail.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bella. Again, I know League of Women Voters is going to help our Bronxites and other people in New York City learn and, stay educated on voting. Finally, how can folks stay informed about upcoming elections through you, League of Women Voters, any social media numbers, etc.?
Yeah, so luckily everything has the same 6 letters, so that helps. So we are LWVNYC, which stands for League of Women Voters of New York City. So lwvnyc.org is our website. Our Twitter handle is at LWVNYC, same for Instagram, same for Facebook. So you should be able to find us.
Thank you so much, Bella, again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bella Wang is the voting reform chair at the League of Women Voters NYC. Again, special elections here in the Bronx for districts 11 and districts 15 are taking place on March 23rd. You can register to vote by February 26th. For more information, visit vote411.org, and you can also visit vote.nyc. We'll be right back.